understand now that we're like older, we understand that a lot of the mental health knowledge, general knowledge that we got growing up, especially like our generation, was not biblical. It was cultural. And so what practical things can we do now as like we suffered through and are carrying a lot of this, like, and some of them, to be specific, like one of the ones you mentioned, is the idea that like the suffering of mental health is something that we have to purely fix through spiritual
Absolutely.
means. How
Absolutely,
can,
Habibi.
yeah.
Oh, I think, Habibi, what you touched on the most actually major point, which is the views and the stigma of mental health. Let me first say that it is not only the Coptic Orthodox Church that has that. It's not only the Eastern culture that has that. Actually, if I can show you some of the books I'm reading nowadays, all of this are mental health and the church, uh, American books, building God people in a materialistic society. All it talks about how mental health uh, is negatively viewed by church's leaders. So I think one of the point how to fix the problem is number one is to know that there is a problem. Number two is to align some resources in actually uh, bridging between the two, because you're going to find two groups working here. One of them is those who say, let's rely 100% on spirituality. The other one, let's rely 100% on psychology. No, there is something called the integration. I'm doing a PhD now. I just started recently. The whole idea of my PhD is about the integration on how to reach the fullness of the individual. So we need to allocate a lot of resources to that integration, psychotherapy, and Christianity, where you deal with a human being who is not just a flesh, not just a spirit, not just full, but he is all of them, and all of them together will actually not just to determine how he behaves, but how he feels. Like that mind, brain, hand model, it is thoughts and feelings and actions. So basically, it is that there is a lovely book by Pope Shenouda. I think in one of my talks to you previously, I mentioned it, which is Who is the Man or What is the Man? The man is all of them. So nowadays, I see many priests actually are going to psychology and taking degrees in psychology. And the focus I am doing now, after I finish my master's, is the integrative model. How can we reconcile? Maybe that is one of the areas we need to enrich. And having these kind of talks today and repeating that will actually somehow wipe out ignorance by teachings. I hope that like just answered your question.
That's a perfect one. I really like the holistic view, like viewing from all angles, and the integration, very, very important. Thank you so much, Abuna. Abuna, feel free to pick questions on your screen. You can start with the ones that are most voted, or you can pick the one that you'd most like to answer.
I think I'll go with the order. يعني لغاية ما انت تقولي لي enough يعني. The first question talks about if someone feels lonely, being not loved by anyone. When I see the word anyone and lonely, I know that this is overgeneralizing, and overgeneralizing is an indication of anxiety, and in that case, it would lead a lot to self-esteem. Because if I think carefully, we go with the arrow down technique. Is it truly you are not loved by anyone? Alice, maybe we start by the thought change process. Give a percentage to that thought. How how much do you think that nobody loves you? Maybe you'll start by 100% because you say anyone. And then we go slowly. Let's defeat that thought. Can you think of anyone around you who really at least cares even a tiny bit? So you're gonna find that by 100% starting point that nobody loves me, we end up to, let's correct that. In one of my last sessions, actually, I am helping someone with self-esteem. Uh, he started by 100% nobody loves me, and we are at step 7 now, and it is 25%. So 100% nobody loves me. And when we defeat the thought by reality, let's really investigate that. We find that no, there are tons of people around us that love us. Sometimes, if you find nobody at all, I cannot even say nobody loves me because you are loved by God, even if you don't know it. In that case, yes, you can seek help by chatting with Abuna who loves you so much. And that would be the starting point. Abuna loves you. He gives you time, he talks to you. So it is not anybody. No, there is at least one person that loves you. Abuna will talk to you about the love of God. Today I received a package where somebody printed the Corinthian chapter of love and sent me some pictures just to distribute. We actually need to remind ourselves with the love of God. God is so loving. So I have Abuna and I have God. With the exercise that Stephanie made, for sure you have a patron saint that you love. If you don't, pick one. You're gonna find that that saint love you. So we have at least now 3 they love us, or 4 they love us, including God Himself. Look at family, look at friends, look. You're gonna find that really, really, I'm not alone, and really, really, there are people who love me. On the other side, if I find that nobody ever loves me, maybe in that case, with the help of a professional help, I can know, is there any behavior that need to change? Maybe I overtalk. Maybe I seek attention a lot. Maybe so. Basically, I find what is the cause. And thank God that we are not rigid. We are flexible. We can change. That help will definitely allow me to introduce myself after a little bit of a change for people to love me. Number 4 or number 3, yes, I need to love people first. And I know for sure that I will reap the fruit of that later. So maybe I can take a certain action of showing love to others. I'm not seeking or begging their love, but I'm presenting, initiating, and I will definitely receive in return. I hope that this is like a tiny answer to that question. Uh, how to deal with toxic groups had narcissistic attitudes and they try to bothering you all time mentally. And well, if you know that they are toxic, you are not supposed to be surrounded by toxic environment, but make sure that it is toxic and make sure that there is an option to withdraw yourself from that group. Uh, when I label people toxic or their environment is toxic, I need to talk to somebody to have a neutral perspective. Because if toxic group is my mom and my dad, well, maybe we need to revisit our evaluation. But don't ever surround yourself with people who actually put you down. Uh, maybe for narcissistic in particular, I give a talk how to deal with difficult people, and I specifically talk about that because sometimes all it needs to do, uh, just ignore them completely. Don't let them affect you because that's their goal. When you ignore them completely, if you can, خلاص they imagine that they are not there. But, uh, had بيقول a lot of saints had to deal with suicidal thoughts like St. Paul, Elijah, blah, blah, blah. Well, uh, dealing with suicidal thoughts yes, you can actually do some research and gonna find, yes, some characters in the Bible could be used as examples. But dealing with a thought is something, and acting on the thought is something else. Suicidal thoughts could be because of many things. One of them is losing hope. Another one is chemical imbalance in the brain. Another one is, but acting on that is not the right thing. So maybe if I have those thoughts, I need to know who to talk to. There are tons of support lines and hotlines and all of that, because this is taking seriously. When I do like intake form to accept a new client or a new patient in my small, tiny clinic, I actually ask a clear question about suicidal thoughts. And if the answer is yes, I take it extremely serious, because this is the code of ethics. That thing must be taken seriously. If you ever have any kind of thought like that, don't just keep it within. You have to speak to somebody about it. And there is no shame of having a thought, because it could be due to many things that can change, and then your hope in life and actually will be regained back. It says if you are aware of health conditions in someone now that can lead to complication like anxiety.
Is it anxiety to worry about the future, or is that being cautious?
Well, being cautious and being anxious, both of them could be positive as well. معلش, I don't have my eyeglasses, so forgive me. Being anxious and being cautious, both of them are good up to a certain limit. And both of them could be extremely dangerous if they go beyond the limit. Because when we are anxious and cautious about an exam, we study hard. But when that situation puts us in a condition where we cannot even read the paper or hold the pen, when our heart start to race to the point that, no, in that case, we need to treat it. Because I don't want people to become careless. No, we need to have that level of feeling responsible. So basically, absolutely right. Yes, uh, it's okay to have that healthy level. What is meant by the angel of his presence? Who is that angel? What do you mean? Who wrote that? Is
I
it
think
is it in the
Abuna,
verse?
this was in the one of the first slides in your talk. Uh,
Yes.
this was mentioned in one of the verses.
Okay, Habi. So if it is one of the verses like God will take care of you and the angel of his presence will do this and that. The angel of his presence, usually the word angel means a messenger sent by God for a purpose. So it could be literally the angels. And we have to remember that we have guardian angels. We are not alone. We are protected. And this could help a lot when you are worried or afraid from accidents and whatnot. You are not alone. You are surrounded. There are tons of stories that demonstrate that. The angel of his presence also could be, the word angel here could be reference to Christ himself, who was sent as a messenger of redemption. And in the Bible, many places actually revealed Christ as the angel of redemption, because he came to redeem us as a messenger from God who was equal to him. Or the angel of his presence could be anybody who actually can be used by God to save the situation. You might be thinking of committing suicide, and all of a sudden you said, let me talk to Abuna first. And you talk to Abuna, your father of confession or a priest in the church. And Abuna, in that case, lifts you up, gives you hope. That's the angel of his presence. Because in the presence of God, he lifted you up as a messenger, as a servant. It could be a friend of yours who actually supports you or give you a positive push to keep going. That's the angel of his presence. That's why in all my therapy sessions, if they are for for Christian clients, I always start and end by prayers. If they are just Canadian or American or British and they don't have religion or so forth, I guide them to find and to speak to God because the angel of his presence can lift up. Uh, if we suspect that someone close to us has a mental health disorder, how should we bring it up to them respectfully? Well, it depends on the relationship with the person. If he's a close friend, you can gently say, well, I noticed that recently you become more agitated or more angry, or you so I heard about that lovely servant in the church, or that lovely abuna, or that, how about you go talk to him and see what's going on. It's a very interesting to know that people would actually appreciate a lot that you notice something going on. uh, I'm not suggesting that you do that, but I had to watch حاجة اسمها 13 Reasons Why about a girl who committed suicide in the US. It's a very bloody show, and I had to watch it as part of my study. And the whole idea of the show is she committed suicide because of 13 reasons. Each reason is associated with an individual who is supposed to observe that something is going on, but nobody ever cares to mention, even the counselor of the school. So when you notice and observe that somebody is not feeling well, or maybe could have a disorder, something like an anorexia or bulimia or حاجات زي كده, you can talk to them gently. You can say, well, I noticed there is that change in your attitude. Is there anything you want to talk about? Is there anything that we can do? And advise. It makes a huge difference. Somebody's asking about the 5-4. It's 9 here is 9 to just the exercise is called 5-4-3-2-1, but I put the word 9 to break it down between 5-4 and 3-2-1. So basically, what is that? Let me share my screen again, if you don't mind. Okay. Or you can ignore the 9 completely. Yani I use it for a reason, but ignore it for now. 5-4-3-2-1. What is that? When people go through anxiety attack or panic attack, or when they are, especially at night, when they are suffering from insomnia, they cannot sleep because of racing thoughts. So usually it makes a huge difference to close your eyes and bring your senses to your own surroundings, your own environment. 5-4-3-2-1 is an easy thing to remember. We have 5 senses. We see, we feel, touch, we hear, we smell, and we taste. So what happened is you actually close your eyes, you take a couple of deep breaths, and then when you open your eyes, you look around you in your surroundings to be in the here and the now. So you call and name 5 things that you see. I see a brown picture. I see a gray curtain. I see black TV. I see. So you name 5 things you see, which will trigger your sensory, like your eyes, your seeing, your vision. And then you name 4 things that you touch: book, laptop, mic, cell phone. And 3 things that you hear. So you focus. I hear the fan. I hear my brother or sister in the other room. I hear the music downstairs. And then 2 things that you can smell. I smell the koshari that mama made today, and I smell the perfume that I bought, or the whatever. And one thing that you can taste, maybe there is a yummy chocolate or sugar or a bread or anything. You take a piece and just put in your mouth and say chocolate. When you do that, you actually bring your own self into the surroundings. So your mind doesn't anymore lie or race for things that is happening in the world, or you are not worried about something. No, you are bringing yourself to the surrounding. Sometimes people go to exam, and before the exam, they start to think about what are they gonna do when they fail. People go to drive tests, and all they find is like jumping in the car because they cannot really control themselves. People go into like the MRI, and they can't. So these grounding techniques will bring them to the surroundings. And when that happens, you gain actually control of your senses. So that's the exercise. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yes. I hope, Nana, I'm not taking anybody's time. Do we still have time?
Yeah, sure, we do have 5 minutes for those last two questions. Yeah.
Okay, Habib. بيقول كده truthfully our community and church struggle with mental health and illness, and it is hard to speak truth into what can help people to overcome. How can we break the stigma? Yes, that's a lovely question. Well, number one, the Bible says a lot about mental health. Maybe when we study mental health from biblical perspective, we can tell people that, you know what, the Bible addresses that. Number two, as I said, we need to have dedicated servants and priests who can focus their study in mental health and help. Number three, we need to have repeated meetings like what you have today. The fact that we have this meeting today, actually, that's by itself is a really good approach. But we need also to raise the awareness in the church and the congregation. Yeah, without mentioning stories and whatnot, I have seen the two sides, and I have seen how people suffer because of that stigma, to the point that people were about to lose their children. But thank God. If you feel someone has a very low self-esteem and is shutting everyone around him, how can you reach this person and get him to talk and open up? Sometimes people who suffer from low self-esteem, all they need is somebody to boost their self-esteem. No matter how old or how young, all of us, we need that kind of word of affirmation. Try to find something that really speaks the truth, but inflated. If somebody, for example, gives a talk or asks a question, and you know that he's suffering from low self-esteem, you tell him, by the way, I really loved the talk you gave today, or I really loved the question you asked. If he plays music, if he shares a post, or yes, approach it from that perspective. And maybe after you build a bridge, he can feel safe to tell you what's going on. Self-esteem is not against humility or humbleness, but it has to be done in wisdom. So hopefully, you can have access to some resources that you can share with that person. That booklet, or not booklet, actually that workbook, the 10 days to self-esteem, I have been using it in the past 2 years a lot, and it is unbelievably amazing. Maybe a small, tiny bit of a word of encouragement can help a person who suffers from self-esteem. I don't know how to thank you for your time, and I hope that I didn't go overboard as far as time.
Thank you so much, Abby. Thank you. ربنا يخليك لنا يا ابونا.